Picture this. A young couple sits at their kitchen table, calculator in hand, staring at a number that makes their stomachs drop. $331,000. That's what it costs to raise just one child in America today, not including college. The woman closes her laptop. The man exhales slowly, and just like that, the dream of becoming parents slips further away. This isn't a scene from a dystopian movie. This is happening right now in millions of homes across America, and it's creating a crisis that threatens the very foundation of our society. Welcome to the story of how inflation didn't just raise prices, it changed the future of the American family forever. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. The United States fertility rate just hit an all-time low. In 2024, American women averaged fewer than 1.6 children. That's the lowest rate ever recorded in modern American history. To put that in perspective, we need about 2.1 children per woman just to maintain our population. We're not even close. But here's what makes this different from every other demographic shift in history. This isn't about choice in the traditional sense. When researchers ask young Americans why they're not having children, the number one answer isn't that they don't want kids. It's that they can't afford them. 48% of non-parents say they don't expect to have children. That's up from 37% just 5 years ago. And among those unlikely to have kids, the most common reasons are cost concerns and global uncertainty. The math is brutal. In 2015, the USDA estimated it would cost $233,000 to raise a child to age 17. Fast forward to today, and that number has exploded to over $330,000. That's an increase of nearly $100,000 in less than a decade. Think about what that means. An entire generation is being priced out of parenthood. So where exactly is all this money going? Let's break it down because the details are staggering. Housing is the biggest killer, making up 28% of child rearing expenses. When you have a kid, you need more space. That extra bedroom isn't optional. In some states, the additional housing cost alone pushes families to the breaking point. Then there's childcare, and this is where things get truly insane. Families in the United States spend an average of $11,000 on childcare each year. That's a 250% increase since 1991. In 2025, the average annual cost just to have childcare for one child under 5 reached over $27,000. Let that sink in. $27,000 per year for one child. Some parents are literally calculating whether it makes financial sense to work at all. One father applied for a promotion that would have meant more money and stability for his family. But when he and his wife did the math, they realized the entire salary increase would be consumed by childcare costs. He withdrew his application and went back to gig work. Food comes in second at 18% of the budget. And it's not just about feeding an extra mouth. Inflation has hit grocery stores hard, forcing families to choose between healthy options and affordable ones. Many are switching to cheaper, less nutritious alternatives just to make ends meet. Healthcare, education, transportation, clothing, it all adds up. And unlike previous generations, today's parents face these costs with less job security, higher student debt, and wages that haven't kept pace with inflation. Now here's what most people don't realize. Inflation doesn't hit everyone equally. And when it comes to raising children, some families are suffering far more than others. Research shows that low-income households face inflation rates about 10% higher than the average. For these families, every price increase is magnified because essentials like food and energy make up a larger portion of their budget. Black households face particularly severe challenges. They experience 13.5% higher inflation volatility compared to white households. This means it's harder to predict expenses and plan spending. You can't save for your child's future when you can't predict what next month's grocery bill will be. Middle-class families are squeezed from both sides. They earn too much to qualify for assistance programs, but not enough to absorb the rising costs comfortably. 22.6% of their income now goes to basic child rearing expenses. In Hawaii, that number jumps to 25%. And it's not just about the money you spend. It's about the opportunities you give up. Nearly 80% of parents report making financial sacrifices for their kids. The most common? Reducing spending on themselves, pushing back retirement, and forgoing career opportunities. Women bear the heaviest burden. Between the pay gap and gendered household expectations, mothers are more likely to sacrifice their careers, their education, and their financial security to make parenthood work. One researcher put it perfectly. Having children isn't like buying a fancy car. It shouldn't be reserved for the wealthy. But that's exactly what's happening in America today. This isn't just a problem for individuals. The consequences of falling birth rates will reshape America in ways most people haven't even considered. First, there's the labor force. Fewer children today means fewer workers tomorrow. Who will fill the jobs? Who will drive economic growth? Who will pay into Social Security when the current generation retires? The birth rate among women aged 15 to 44 has dropped from a stable range of 60 to 70 births per thousand between 1980 and 2017 down to just 54.5 in 2023. Since 2007, births have declined 17%. That's not a blip, that's a demographic earthquake. Communities are already changing. Neighborhoods that once rang with the sound of children playing are growing quieter. Schools are consolidating. Businesses that depend on young families are struggling. And here's the kicker. Even among those who want children, many are being forced to delay. Women are having their first child later in life, which means they have less time to have more children. Older parents also face higher healthcare costs and increased risks. The data shows that women aged 30 and above are most sensitive to childcare costs precisely because they earn higher wages and face greater opportunity costs. They're the ones who would benefit most from having children, and they're the ones being pushed out of parenthood by economic pressure. This creates a vicious cycle. Fewer children mean a smaller tax base. A smaller tax base means less funding for programs that could make childcare affordable, and less affordable childcare means even fewer children. Governments have tried to respond, but their solutions often miss the mark. Some states have expanded child tax credits. Pennsylvania offers eligible families up to $2,100. That's helpful, but it barely dents the $300,000 price tag of raising a child. The Trump administration has pushed for expanded access to IVF and floated the idea of baby bonuses to encourage couples to have more kids. But experts are skeptical. These measures don't address the fundamental problems of parental leave and affordable childcare. You can't solve a structural economic crisis with one-time bonuses. It's like putting a Band-Aid on a broken bone. Meanwhile, childcare facilities are trapped in their own crisis. They're raising prices to cover increased food costs and worker wages, but higher prices drive families away. Many centers are struggling to stay in business. When they close, it creates childcare deserts that make the problem even worse. The pandemic made everything harder. Federal childcare funding that helped facilities stay afloat during COVID has dried up. Workers who left the industry aren't coming back. The system is breaking down at precisely the moment when families need it most. And nobody seems to have a comprehensive answer. Democrats focus on subsidies. Republicans emphasize tax credits. But neither approach addresses the real issue. The cost of living has fundamentally disconnected from wages, and raising a child has become economically irrational for millions of Americans. So where do we go from here? Some people look at falling birth rates and see opportunity. Fewer people means less strain on the environment, they argue. A smaller population could be more sustainable. But that's a luxury perspective. For most people, the declining birth rate represents lost dreams and stolen futures. It represents couples who wanted to be parents but couldn't afford it. It represents children who will never be born because the economic deck was stacked against them. The United States is now on par with Western European fertility rates. Countries like Japan and South Korea are even further ahead in this demographic crisis, and they're struggling to find solutions. South Korea's rate has fallen below 1.0. Their population is literally shrinking. Young people today face burdens previous generations never imagined. Credit card debt near $1.2 trillion, student debt at $1.7 trillion, auto loans over $1 trillion, and now, if they want children, $300,000 per child. Over 50% of Gen Z adults view the cost of living as their biggest challenge. They're not being dramatic, they're being realistic. The confidence that you can provide a stable life for a child has evaporated for millions of young Americans. But here's the thing, this isn't inevitable. This is a choice we're making as a society. We're choosing to let childcare costs spiral out of control. We're choosing not to provide paid parental leave. We're choosing to let wages stagnate while the cost of raising a family skyrockets. Other developed nations have made different choices and have better outcomes. The question is whether America has the political will to do the same. Because make no mistake, what we're witnessing isn't just an economic trend. It's the end of parenthood as accessible to all. It's the transformation of having children from a normal life milestone into a luxury good. The American family is being rewritten by inflation. And unless something changes dramatically, the story being written is one of empty nurseries, quiet playgrounds, and a generation that wanted children but couldn't afford the dream. The numbers don't lie. The future is already here. The only question left is whether we're willing to change it.